Welcome to the Mother-Daughter-ish podcast. It's your mama's favorite podcast.
And the podcast your daughter always wanted.
This is Miss Dawn.
And Angelique.
From the 713. Houston, y'all. Get connected and stay connected weekly as new shows debut on Sunday, Wednesday, and please check out our Saturday Out and About showcases.
Enjoy the show. Please subscribe, like, share, comment, and tell every woman on the planet that you know about our show.
Here's our show for today.
Hey, mothers and daughters, we are back again. I am back again with a very interesting show today that I didn't even know I was going to be doing. And the reason why is because I just happened to watch a movie. And the movie is called The Banker. And the cast, of course, is Anthony Mackie, Samuel L. Jackson, Nicholas Hoult, Nia Long, J.T. Usher, Taylor Black, Colin Meaney, Paul Ben Victor, other actors and actresses as well. But I was watching this movie and I found it to be very, very interesting. And you've heard me probably say in the past that I don't watch any TV that's not going to teach me. I don't watch shows or series, which is why I am not a great candidate for reality show. The only reality show that I liked one time was Kim Zolciak had a show one time. And I don't know what it was called, but the reason why I watched her couple episodes is because she was talking about white label and how she was promoting different products through the white label method. And so that taught me what white label and black label and all of that was, because at that time I was interested in something very particular. And so that was why I liked her show. And she even went to the different expos where you meet the vendors or the wholesale folks that you want to become a vendor for. So that absolutely caught my attention. So I'm watching this movie, and like I say, the cast is just star-studded and pretty amazing. I have not really seen any movies that I didn't like that Anthony Mackie was in. There's not been very many movies that I've seen. I'm not saying I've seen all their shows, but I'm saying the ones I've seen, there's not been anything I didn't like Samuel Jackson was in. I hadn't seen anything that I didn't like Nicholas Hoult in, and you know that Nia Long is a favorite just from anybody my age on down, childhood. And then Jesse T. Usher, of course, I really like all of those actors. So I was watching this movie, and I'm just kind of, looking at how it was playing out, and it was good twists and turns. I think it came out in 2020, but again, hey, I do not mind being late to the party. But the reason why I wanted to do a show such as this is because I have a lot of conversations with people about different things, and one of the things that we've had conversations about is the banking industry and different ways that we can hold our monies. And I took a poll amongst some associates and friends and family that I know, and we all pretty much agreed that the only reason we use traditional banking is because you have to have debit cards to purchase certain things, like if you want to rent a car, if you need to pay your bills online, these type of things. Now, you could go out and you could buy a secure credit card for about $4.95 at the Walgreens. You could absolutely do that, but a lot of people don't like to do it. I found that there's just a lot of weird things going on with those cards. People go into the Walgreens and the Walmarts and the Targets and places, and they take pictures of those codes on the back, and then as soon as you load that card, they steal that money immediately. Just keep in mind, when it comes to money, there are people who literally have PhDs mentally on knowing how to steal your money. So my point of that is a lot of people don't like to buy those secure credit cards because of that. But the poll said that the only reason why we use these cards is because we need them for certain things. If we could just pay for everything by mail, or we could pay for everything in cash, or if we didn't need credit cards to do that, or if we could just trust these secure credit cards a little bit more so that we don't have to be tied to a bank. And if they didn't say things like, well, you can get a free checking account only if you have an ACH transfer. If we didn't have all that tied together the way they have it monopolized, none of us would have traditional banks. And so I think that the next wave of thinking for those who love to invent new ways to do things, I think it's figuring out how to get away from the big banks, how to get away from the banks that have been monopolizing the world forever, whatever that is. Or for others, for us to just figure out how we can do business in certain circles that accept our cash money, and whoever doesn't, then we don't do business with them. I remember going into I don't know the name of it, but it was a smoothie juice shop, and I think my smoothie was like $3 or $4. I don't put anything on my credit card under $10. It don't make sense to me, and I'm talking about debit card. But they said, well, we don't take cash. Well, they were already making the smoothie, so I said, oh, okay, well, all I have is cash. And he was like, well, do you have the exact amount? I was like, well, I don't have the exact amount, but the change would only be a few pennies, so it's not a big deal. You could just keep 10 cents or whatever, 11 cents. And they were like, no, well, we can't take cash. And I was like, okay. I just turned around and walked out, because it's like, okay, I won't do business in that particular establishment. And so that's kind of where I'm headed with my life, is that if you don't take cash, then I'm not doing business with you. But that was just me thinking as I was watching that movie, The Banker. And all I'm saying is, one, it's a good movie, and two, it leads me here. I started wondering and I already know that like Whitney Bank and all of them are available, because when I was in Louisiana, that's who I went with, was Whitney Bank. And so I was just wondering where to get a list of black-owned banks and credit unions in the United States of America, and I was able to compile a list, and now I want to share that with you. So that's what my show is about today, is black banking institutions. So for those of you that are interested, I'll start now. So on my list, I have 53. So this won't be a long show, but it'll be very educational and informational. So one of the banks, and I'm going to tell you also if they're online, if they have a store, and what states and cities they're listed in. So don't worry, I got the information. So Mo-K-Fi, let me also make a disclaimer that a lot of these names, I don't like them. But Mo-K-Fi is an online bank only. That's Mocafi. It's an online bank only. Greenwood, online bank only. One United, online, Massachusetts, California, and Florida. Alamerica, Mobile, Alabama. City First, and I'll also tell you if I've ever heard of these banks too. City First, yes, I've heard of that one, in D.C. in California. Commonwealth, Natnl, so I'm sure that means national. Mobile, Alabama. HUEFCU, Washington, D.C. Industrial Bank, D.C., Maryland, New Jersey, New York, so that's East Coast. Labor FCU, that's Washington, D.C. Phi Beta Sigma FCU, that's Federal Credit Union. By the way, if I say FCU, that's Federal Credit Union. FCU, Federal Credit Union. Okay, so Phi Beta Sig, SIG, that's Washington, D.C. FAMU FCU, that's Tallahassee, Florida. Citizens Trust, yes, I've heard of them. That's Atlanta, Georgia. First Choice CU, that's Credit Union. CU is Credit Union. There's no F in front of it, so it's not a federal credit union. It's just a credit union. Atlanta, Georgia. Credit Union of Atlanta, Atlanta, Georgia. United FCU, NFCU, National Federal Credit Union. Augusta, Georgia. Carver State, Savannah, Georgia. Omega Sci-Fi FCU, Toccoa, Georgia. GN Bank, Chicago, Illinois. Southside when I think of that, I thought of Chicago, and that's actually where it is. So Southside CFCU, Chicago, Illinois. STPECU, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So that's S is in Sam, T is in Tom, P is in Paul. FCU, that's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Liberty, Alabama, Illinois, Kansas City, Kentucky, Louisiana, Missouri, and Mississippi. MECU, Baltimore, Maryland. I always hear them say Baltimore with a D, like. The next one is Security Plus FCU, Baltimore, Maryland. The Harbor, Baltimore, Maryland. I need to get me some water. Andrews FCU, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. TEFCU, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia. First Independence, I've heard of them, California, Florida, and Maryland. Okay. I'm sorry, California, Florida, and Massachusetts. Hope CU, that's Atlanta, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, South. Jackson FCU, that's Jackson, Mississippi. St. Louis CU, that's St. Louis, Missouri. Carver FSB, New York. Urban Upbound, I like that name, Long Island, New York. M&F Bank, Durham, North Carolina. GKCU, Kingston, North Carolina. Toledo Urban FCU, Toledo, Ohio. First Security Bank, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. United Bank, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hill District, FCU, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Optus Bank, Columbus, South Carolina. Palmetto HCU, West Columbus, South Carolina. Citizens Savings, Nashville, Tennessee. And here's my last group that's coming up. Mount Olive. Now that sounds like that's a bank that's connected to a church. But it's Mount Olive BCFCU, Arlington, Texas. Unity, I've heard of that one. Unity National, Houston, Texas. Faith Corporative CU, that's in Dallas, Texas. Oak Cliff CFCU, Dallas, Texas. Democracy FCU, DC, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Virginia, East Coast. VSU FCU, South Chesterfield, Virginia. Columbia Savings, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Mount Zion ICU, sound like a church. Mount Zion ICU, Indianapolis, Indiana. Messiah BCFCU, East Orange, New Jersey. Adelphi Bank, Columbus, Ohio. Toledo MCU, Toledo, Ohio. And then Richmond Heritage in Richmond, Virginia. Now, of course, if you want more details, then if you wrote down one that was in an area that you're in, I would say research the bank. I would say read the reviews. Let me tell you something. Angelique, my daughter, she has really taught me how to read reviews. I used to just make my own informed decision and just kind of go with what I feel like I needed to go with. But let me tell you, she has really, really put it in my mind to read these reviews, okay? I started everywhere I go now, I put a review up for that place I experienced, store, restaurant, location, mall, whatever, particular store, whatever. And I'm telling you, I get a lot of responses. I think my most proud response I got is I rented a car in Mexico, and it's one of the last ones that you can kind of rent from this particular company. I think there's a handful you can rent from that only will take a debit card. Everybody else wants to take a credit card and hold $1,600 or thousands of dollars off of your credit card, plus the cost of the car, plus the insurance, plus whatever other fees they want to charge you, which you could walk out of there with a $5,000 hold on your major credit card, which to me is so ridiculous because they just want to be able to add that into money earned, and then they have a different line that says, monies that, they did not get to keep, which it just pumps up their companies from the front end, but when you go through the back end, you realize they really didn't earn that money. It was monies that was given back. Anyway, I did a review on a rental car place and it was called City Car Rental in Mexico. And I have almost 16,000 people that viewed my review that I put up there and gave very much praise, that they were happy that I listed it up there, because they are too in the same situation as me, where they don't use major credit cards. They only use either cash or what they have in their account. If they don't have it, they don't need it. And so it just was interesting to see that people cared about that. And so I have just gotten it in my head to make sure that I definitely do the reviews. So I'm so thankful that if you go and you look up these different banks and you find one in your area, or one that you can open in an area that you own a business in, maybe not necessarily live there, but you have a business there. And I just say do your research and find if that place is what is supposed to be for you. So I don't vouch for any of them. I'm just bringing you the news. None of them are partnered with me. I'm just bringing you the news. I'm bringing you the information so that if you are looking for a black-owned bank, then you'll know that there are some. Because before I looked into Whitney Bank, when I took my business to branch off and open up in Louisiana, I did not know that Whitney was a black-owned bank. I don't know if they still are. I don't remember seeing them on the list, but they partnered in with another bank, and it was Whitney something else. And so I think the other name stood the test of time, and the Whitney part maybe didn't. But I do know that we had a Whitney Bank here in Houston. So all I'm saying is, if you are looking for possibly a different experience, if you're looking for a bank, and for those of you that are wondering, well, why is she bringing this up? Well, I'm bringing it up not just because I saw the movie, but I'm bringing it up because there have been times that minorities go into banks and we don't get treated favorably when it's time for us to get a loan. We don't get treated favorably when our monies are being held. We don't get favored in all kinds of situations. I had a program that I did for more than 20 something years, and we kept no less than over $300,000 in that account every month, and they still wouldn't give us a loan to be able to buy some of the different major equipment that we wanted to move forward with. And I'm not going to say the bank, because it doesn't matter, because I fired them a long time ago because they tried to steal $70,000 from me. And if I had not stayed on top of it, they probably would have gotten away with it. I did a show about it maybe a couple years ago when it happened. So if you happen to go back through the playlist, it'll say Bank-ish, and you can hear that story on there. And I'm just telling you that sometimes you need to bank with your own. So if you've got a list of other minority banks, put them down in the comments so that people maybe reading it will know that there are other banks. I'm not saying that this is a form of any type of animosity or anything like that. All I'm saying is sometimes you need to be where you need to be in order to get what you know you deserve. And if that means that that's going to be in the hands of bankers that understand you, understand your culture, understand your circumstances, understand how you run your business. Like, one thing I tell you I cannot stand is I can't stand for somebody to try to tell me how to run my business. And when I say that, I mean in a sense of, well, you should do it like this because everybody else is doing it. Well, I've never been the type of person that wanted to do what everybody else is doing. Even when I was in high school, if everybody was doing a particular type of thing, I wasn't doing it. If everybody was going across the street to the ice cream shop, I wasn't going. If everybody was today is skip school day, I wasn't going. If everybody was dating everybody, I wasn't doing it. If everybody liked the cutest boy at school, I ain't like him. So I've never been a get along, go along. I've never been a follower, never been that type of person. And into my adulthood now, I'm still not that person. So obviously I'm true to myself. So I'm just giving you the information. You don't have to do anything with it. I'm just making you aware. But again, this show and this thought was inspired by the movie The Banker. Now, this movie may not be what you think it is. It's about something totally different than really what I'm talking about today. I'm saying that watching that movie made me wonder, were there any black-owned banks in the United States of America. And that's just what made me look this up. That's all I'm saying. So remember, when you're looking for a bank, if it's just a traditional name, it's just a traditional bank. Make sure that they are backed by all securities and exchange that they should be, FDIC and anybody else. If you're looking for a credit union, that is something that you want to look for. If it says CU, that's credit union. If you want to look for a federal credit union, look into what the difference in the two is. What's the difference in a federal credit union and just a federal credit union? One can be owned by different rules, and another could be more private. Also, think about this. If you have a nonprofit or 501c3, those accounts for nonprofits do not do well in credit unions. They do a lot of things that won't fit for a nonprofit, like when you start getting your grants and your contracts and things like that, that funding is always under scrutiny. So with that, you will have to definitely go with a traditional bank, meaning traditional, it cannot be a federal credit union. So I'm just saying, when it comes to banking, a lot of talk is happening about how we can hold our money on our own without having to deal with traditional banks. And I don't know if you even knew this, but for every dollar that you put in your bank account, they can borrow 10 against it. So this is why the bank numbers are just numbers, and this is why online banking is just such a big deal, because you can go online and you can look at your account, and your account says you have $12,256.12, and it's just a number. But if you take yourself, and trust me, I've already tested it for y'all. You don't have to take my word for it, but I've already tested it. Not on that dollar amount, but let's just say on a significant dollar amount, 70,000 or so. You can go to your bank and you can fill out your withdrawal slip. Let's just say you go in there and you say, I want $20,000. They're going to tell you, I'm sorry, we don't have that money. You have to order that, and then you have to come back in a week or two and we can give it to you. So that's how you know your money is not actually in the bank. Once you give it to them, they then have permission to be able to borrow against your money. That's why back in the day, and this is why I feel like, this is my opinion of what I'm going to say. This is why I feel like the banking way that Washington Mutual did business, this is why I feel like they didn't work out. I don't care if it was the right or the wrong way on the back or the front end. I'm just saying I feel like they didn't work out because Washington Mutual was a very, very business friendly, small business friendly bank. And you could open up as many accounts there as you wanted to. You didn't have to put no money down. You didn't have to pay no checking. You could just utilize it for your own good of what you wanted. But see, when Chase Bank bought Washington Mutual Bank, they canceled all of those accounts with people who barely kept $5 in those accounts, and maybe they were up this month, down next month. Baby, if you were down during the time that they took over, they canceled those accounts. They looked at you like you're not valuable. We have no need for you. It's kind of like when my PCP fired me several months ago, and she said, these were her exact words in my face. She said that I was not a good candidate for her as a doctor because I was not on prescription medication, because all of her patients are on, multiple medications, and that even herself, she was on 12 medications. So that I probably should find a natural doctor because I was not a good candidate for her. I think this is the same thing the bank is saying. So yeah, I know what I just said to some of you is new news, but if you listen to the podcast, you know I've said that before. And she fired me, and what did I do? I went straight away and found me a natural doctor. But this is how the banks think of you as well. If you're not putting in, and you're not putting out, and you're not putting money where they can borrow against it, you are not a good candidate for them. Because yeah, if you need your money and it's not a significant amount, they'll go ahead and let you borrow your money. It's kind of like they take your money and then they get to choose when they want to let you have your money back. We're going to let you have it today, or we're going to make you order it and come back. I don't like that. That's why you have to be careful when people say, they're multi millionaires and things like that. It's like, can they go to the bank though and touch that money and put their hand on it? I was listening to something today that I was just doing some research, and they were saying that it was either the Rockefellers or the Rothschilds, but one of those families has $11 trillion that they're worth. And I said to myself, but I wonder how much of that money could they actually go to the bank and put their hands on? Because these million, billion, trillion, gazillion dollar words that people use, You have to be very careful when you're listening. You have to train your ear to listen a little more carefully and not just go off of all the hype that you hear, but just wonder, can these folks really put their hands on it? But just saying that they're a million, billion, trillion, a gazillion puts them in the driver's seat to rule the world. So all I'm saying is that wherever you're banking, maybe you should get understood with them up front. If I'm going to keep $100,000 in this account every month and I decide I just want to close it down and go open it up somewhere else, or if it's my money, if I just want to close it down, so I don't have to tell you what I'm going to do. Because I had a banker ask me one time, what are you going to do when you take all this money out? And I said, I don't think that's any of your business, and I really don't appreciate you asking me my business. And I didn't get a response. But she said, well, you have to come back in 2 weeks. We have to order that kind of money. But I fired that particular bank. And this is different than the one I'm talking about here. But I fired that bank because I just didn't like the way they didn't support anything that we did as a nonprofit. They didn't give us the opportunity to get any kind of loans, even though we were with them for 15 years. They didn't treat us the kind of way we wanted. We just left there, went to a different bank, and then because they saw what type of deposits we had, they called us. That bank called us on the phone and said, hey, we'd like to introduce you to private banking. Now, if you don't know what private banking is, I suggest that you Google it. And if you have significant funds that you put in your bank account every month, and when I say significant, I'm talking 50,000 or more. At that time, the contract that we had was way over that. But if you've got, that type of money or something close to that, you need to find out from your bank if they offer private banking. It's a different experience. I loved it every step of the way. I'm no longer doing those type of contracts, so that is not my wheelhouse at this moment, because along with those contracts came just a lot of stuff that I didn't want in this juncture of my life. So all I'm saying to you today is that if you are looking for a black-owned banking institution, first do your homework. Second, read the reviews. So we got that. We got homework. We got do your reviews. Call a banker and discuss whatever it is that you want to discuss. And you probably saying, what am I going to discuss? Well, make a list. Make a list of what you want to discuss with that banker. Ask them all the questions that you need to ask. Ask them what their hours are if it doesn't say it on the voice thing. Ask them what states and cities are they located in. Ask them what type of cards do they have, and what is the chance that after how many months could you possibly get a personal account, a personal credit card if that's what you want. Ask just questions, will I have a private banker here, or will I be subjected to go to just anyone? Ask them even if they have a private banking program, because I do know some banks that don't have private banking programs, and they look at you like, well, what does that mean? They don't even know what you're talking about. I've been with a particular bank of my own with business and personal accounts for maybe the last 20 something years, and I just found out something new about them yesterday, and that was the additional states that they are located in, and that they originated actually in Michigan. So I didn't even know that they originated in Detroit, Michigan. So that was even shocking for me. But I just happened to be talking to someone who really cares about their job that relocated from Michigan to here. And so it just was very interesting to be able to find out more information. I have always told people that only do business with people who care about doing business with you. And all I mean by that is if you have a bank and they just treat you like a number, yeah, she brings her money here, he brings his money here, and wow, I love it when they make their deposit, because, this goes to the big man at the top to be able to allow us to borrow against it and invest. And that's what they do, they invest. Because like when that one particular investment company went under this year, a lot of banks were hurting because of that close down. Let me tell you something. 3 weeks after that financial scheme thing blew up, my Bank of America closed on my street. My Chase Bank closed down on my street. A Wells Fargo near me closed down. And it's like 7 banks closed within, I would say, within a 4-mile radius, going left, right, going north, south, east, or west, okay? And I found it interesting, but I was paying attention. And because I was paying attention, I took a mental note of it. So it kind of like, as I'm watching The Banker, and I'm thinking about, I wonder if there's any black-owned banks. And then I was like, but all the ones that closed down were traditional institutions. And so it just leads me down a rabbit hole. You're going to find that in 2024, I'm going to be going down a lot of rabbit holes. And I'm going to be giving a lot of information on things that you can use that's going to help you. So again, that's my show today on black-owned banks. If you haven't checked out The Banker, check it out. It's pretty good with Anthony Mackie, Samuel L. Jackson, Nia Long. Check it out. It's a pretty good movie. But that's my show today on black-owned banks. And until next time, bye.